Hello and welcome to Art Laughs with me, Verity Babs. Today I spoke to Lulu Popplewell. I'm here with Lulu Popplewell. Lulu, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Lulu Popplewell, as you just said.
You're an excellent comedian.
Oh, well, thank you. That is for you to say. I'm a comedy lady. I do some comedy talking and some comedy writing.
And you have picked Ava Wishes for Summer by A.K. Nicholas for us today. And could you just give us a brief introduction to this piece, like why you like it, where you've seen it?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a rogue choice. When you asked me to do this, I was going to go for something Hockney. Mm-hmm. That's basically the only artist I know I like, and then I thought, no, that's a really basic bitch choice. So I literally typed into Google artists similar to Hockney, and it came up, and I really liked it, and I chose it just because it spoke to me immediately. You know, it was an instinctive choice. So it's actually something I've only discovered this week. It's not like a long held favorite piece of art that I have.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's really beautiful, and I've got that weird thing about I just love water. Like I just love it's like swimming. I think they've done that light reflection of the water so beautifully.
Yeah,
pretty like a painting in terms of extreme water, and she's so pale and it looks so composed. And I guess with photography, it's just like it just all happened to all coincide like that at the right moment when he was clicking the.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the thing, I didn't even know I didn't know the gender of the artist, and I didn't bother to look, because I think with nudes it's interesting not knowing whether it was a male gaze or what was going on there. So I didn't bother, because it's an initialized artist. I didn't know.
Yeah, so when I was like searching this just to have the image at the side so I could talk to you about it while looking at it, looked it up and it comes up with his profile picture. And I think this image is so beautiful. And I think with, like you say, with nudes, it's a sort of interesting debate. And I asked my followers on Instagram recently whether they thought that male artists who predominantly or only paint female nudes, whether they're sexist or just boring. And the overwhelming response was just boring. Right. But it is interesting looking at this guy's his profile on Saatchi Art. Like some of them are these beautiful, very arty, very blue, sort of in the water or in these sort of summer warm light, and they're really gorgeous. And some of them are just page 3, and it's really interesting trying to work out whether that makes me like respect one image more or less, or whether
you have to look at it as a whole collection, or whether you can just take it as a standalone piece. And that's interesting, because I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with them being sexualized and voyeuristic, if that's acknowledged, if that's the intent. This is a huge discussion. Of course, there's like things that are slightly problematic about it, but I don't think that all male artists or male identifying artists can't paint female nudes in a way that is sexualized. I just think that has to be incorporated into the understanding of it.
Yeah, I think it can be quite easy to be quite lazy about this thing of, because it's just the way that art has been basically forever, is men painting women.
Yeah.
And it sort of goes unspoken. And there's one particular image in this that I'll show you later. I'll show you later. I'll show you when you're older. A porn still, essentially. And it is so interesting because the woman in the water feels very expressive and very vulnerable, but in a women giving themselves up to nature sort of way, and that feels very, very beautiful. And then some of these I'm not sure whether it's that same female-led vulnerability.
What I really like in that picture is that it's the light on the water implies that there's movement, there's sunshine, but then she's reaching into blackness and darkness, and I don't quite know what that's meant to signify. I haven't imposed a meaning on it, but I just find it interesting to look at.
I think that's one of the best things about looking at art, and especially having access to art now, like from your phone at home, and it doesn't have to be this thing of I'm going to a gallery because I'm a person of culture and I shall go and whatever. Is that now you can look at stuff, and I think there is still that hang up about I don't really know what it means. I like it because of the movement, like you say, and the light, but is that enough? And it's like, yeah, that is enough. That's completely enough. And, my favourite piece of his, I'm like, I think he's absolutely nailed that blue colour. I think that's great. And if that's it, that's sort of it.
As I've got older, I've understood that art is for me to enjoy in any way I want to. Like, sure, I can't maybe join in academic conversations about it, but it used to feel like something that you were either inside or outside of. It was there was a force field around it, and almost like a snobbery. And now, yeah, if I can, as you say, I look at something and be like, that blue is pretty. Like, that's okay. That's enough for me to enjoy it.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's interesting that it's the only art form, like you said about classical music, is that I feel like people can like classical music and say, but I don't really know anything about which composer it was. But no one listens to classical music and go, I don't really get it. And no one listens to, here's a comedy gig and goes, that was really good, but I didn't really get it. I think the thing is that art for some reason has this big thing of, we must understand it. Whereas, with comedy, you'd be like, I like that made me laugh. Or, music, I like that. It wasn't I didn't like it just because I didn't, or I don't like classical music because I don't, rather than going, I don't like this because I understand that in the Renaissance, this, this artist was...
I have books that will back up my point.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is a very academic sort of hang up about art, and I think a lot of museums are trying to be like quirky and cool about stuff, but I think that hang up is going to be quite hard to get rid of, potentially. I feel like I'm secretly watching porn at work. We're scrolling through these while talking to you.
The reason I think there's nothing wrong with like erotic work, or even something being borderline erotic, and it's up to you to interpret, whether it is I've worked in the sex industry. Like, I think that things being created for gratification, whether that just be aesthetic gratification or erotic gratification, is an interesting area. It is an interesting field.
About this idea of, is it sexist or boring? And I find that a lot of male artists do just paint the female form or photograph the female form, and for some reason photography does just feel more invasive for some reason, because it is, it's a modern technology. It's the same technology of, dirty mags and stuff like this, and for some reason painting sort of means you can get away with anything you want. I don't know, I don't think I have necessarily have I'm still working out whether I have a problem with it or not, and whether that problem is an actual problem or just being a bit bored of it. It's interesting how this is still very much a big hang up, and in a lot of ways we're sort of moving into a post-binary world when it comes to gender and gender expression and gender identity. And so images like these are I sort of do associate them with like a different generation, I suppose.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I don't know that I have a firm stance on it. I'm also sort of working out.
Yeah.
Again, I say this as someone who has worked in the sex industry, it's too simple to say it's either making women vulnerable or it's empowering them. Because I think people want it on some end of the scale, and I think it's a cop out to say, oh, it's empowering for them to be viewed through a sexualized lens. But it certainly doesn't have to be demeaning. Is where I land on it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's important to remember that the women in these photographs and any life model is making that choice to do so, and and even life modeling in itself is like a very empowering experience, and I've always found it very empowering when I've done life modeling.
Have you done it? I've always wanted to try it.
It's so good. It's like you come away being like, no one can fuck with me. Like, it's really amazing. It's one of the best things I ever do.
One of the reasons I haven't done it, I've thought about it, is because I can't sit still. Like, you may have noticed, even when I've been like spider monkeying around, like, I can't sit still. So I think that'll be my downfall. It's not the getting my kit off that bothers me, it's the
I think a lot of them, it depends on what sort of one you're doing. So sometimes it's like a class and you move kind of every 2 minutes, then you do a 5-minute pose, then you do a 15-minute pose. I was once doing a life modelling gig, and I'd had a pretty heavy night of drinking the night before, and the last part of the class, we were doing a 15-minute pose, and I was suddenly hit with a massive hangover. So I was like, okay, guys, the 15-minute pose is going to be me lying down.
Nice, yeah.
I think the interesting thing is that it's quite hard to find life modelling gigs that are sort of feel quite legit, because there are a lot of sort of calls for life models, and it's like, meet me in my basement or like, this is for a stag do, which is very different vibes obviously than an artist sort of using you as a muse or whatever.
And in the line of work that I've I have been in the past when I've been escorting, I used to get emails being like, life model wanted, and it would say, unfortunately this is not paid, and I'd be like, what? Like, yeah, okay, are you doing me a favor?
You seem to not have understood the idea of a job.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of goes for any creative arts. Any time that anyone's doing anything freelance, I think it is that difficult thing of, I'm doing you a favor by making you make something for me that'll go on your portfolio, and I might be able to share it a bit, but yeah, even at that point you can't tell how useful it will be, so you don't want to kind of turn down a gig where actually you would have met the head of the BBC had you gone.
Exactly. And like, it's only really in the last year that I've been encouraged by people to start asking for payment more.
Is art something that you engage with regularly?
No. Well, I appreciate art. I appreciate art in the same way that I appreciate classical music. So I like it. I like it being around, but I find it difficult to identify an artist. I've got a very like art-centric mum and sister, so I sort of saw it as their thing growing up.
Yeah.
My mum used to drag us around galleries, and so I associate it with being sort of painfully forced to do something I don't want to.
Yeah, no, my childhood experiences of galleries are very different to the ones I make myself go through now. Now I'm kind of in and out in 10 minutes.
Yeah. I don't go with other people because I like to go in, find one thing I really like, sort of stare at it for 5 minutes and then whistle around the other stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people, our first engagements are really dull school trips or parents making us go around these like we're meant to know that it's really important. We're meant to be very serious and quiet about these things. Yeah. Whereas actually now I'm like, I haven't got the attention span for this. I'm out.
You work out your own way to engage with it, I think. Yeah. And that's the thing. My mum used to try and get us to engage with it by we'd have to like find one piece and then find the postcard of it in the shop, and that was her way of making it fun. Yeah. But I always in the shop was like, oh, I found some chocolate. So it didn't really work.
That's the thing of like the museum shop at the end is it's the shining light.
Yeah, the beacon of hope.
I'm just finding it so interesting scrolling through this guy's portfolio and thinking about that comparison to other artists. So a comedian bombs at a gig, they're still a good comedian, it was just not their gig, right? And I don't know what it is about artists or maybe even musicians that is different, because I guess a comedy gig is very much a one-off experience that is in its time and place and will never happen again, even if it's stand up where the same words will be said, but that reaction's never going to be the same. Whereas I guess an artist has to be pretty confident to be like, I'm putting this out in the world as this finished product. Do you think comedy ever is a finished product when you put it out there?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, the artsy fartsy answer is no. You've never finished creating. Yeah. But I think for me, the last show you do on the last day of the Fringe, in fact, if you're never taking it forward beyond that is the finished product. That is what it is. It might not be perfect. It might not be what you wanted it to be when it started out. But I don't really buy into this whole, oh, you can always improve on it, because I think sometimes you just got to be done and put it away.
Yeah, you've gone as far as you can with that, and that no longer is the format or story that serves you to be doing the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
How long have you been doing stand-up for?
4 years. Mm-hmm. And then also the void of 6 months that's just passed where we don't.
Yeah, we're not counting that.
I've been doing stand-up this whole time, but
yeah, it is that strange thing of seeing how artists and comedians are dealing with this strange downtime in different ways. Comedians are starting to do online gigs, and a lot of exhibitions have moved online. Have you been doing online gigs?
No, I did one, and it scarred my soul in a way that cannot be repaired. It just wasn't for me, and somewhat naively I was like, oh well, this is only going to go on, this pandemic, for like another 2 months or something, so there's no point developing a skill that I'm not going to carry forward. And I think if I'd known how of use it would have been to get used to online gigs, I would have committed to it a bit more. But it just wasn't for me. I think sort of speaking into the void is a specific skill.
Yeah.
I have a lot of admiration for. I'm not shitting on people that have done online gigs. It just didn't suit me.
A lot of comedians had this thing of either my comedy is super physical or actually the joy of doing comedy is saying stuff and people reacting to it. So actually it's almost like a more storyteller skill to be able to do, you know, Zoom comedy.
Absolutely.
And people doing Zoom improv and stuff like that. And I just can't imagine watching that and it not being, watching or doing that and it not being hideously painful.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a slut for laughter. So without the laughter, it's just a mental breakdown, which I have plenty of anyway. I don't need extra. So yeah, it really felt like a horrifying experience to me. It's like dying.
Thank you so much for talking to me today. Could you just let us know where it'd be best to sort of follow you and be able to hear about what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Twitter at Lulu_Popplewell, and if the world returns to normal, details of gigs and stuff will be on there.
Thanks so much for watching. You can follow Lulu in the ways written below, and as per usual, you can follow me at VerityBabsArt on Instagram. Please do give us a follow and a share and a like and a comment, and I'll see you next time.